Hey everybody, Father Joshua here for Radio Free St. Rita. It is Saturday, April 18th, 2020. It's the Saturday in Easter week. Hope you've had a lovely week. I still miss y'all very much. I'm ready for St. Rita to be full again of all sorts of people, our students, our teachers, everybody. Goodness gracious, I know you are ready to get out of the house. I'm ready for that too. But know that you're in my prayers very much. When I say Mass in the church every day, goodness gracious, I pray for you. I pray for our parish, all our families, all our members, and I have you very much in my heart on that altar. And I just look forward to the day when you're in the pews. So keep the faith, keep your hope up and alive, because this will certainly come to an end, and we certainly will be together again. And I just want to thank y'all for the beauty and the character you have displayed in now this month. We've been in this strange situation. You all just keep stepping up, right? Which is not surprising, but it is inspiring. All that you come and give every day in our little food collection project, it's just beautiful to see it overflowing and packed to the brim. And when I do get a chance to speak with you, or if I see you out in the neighborhood, just fills me with joy. Just know you're in my heart, and I know I'm in yours. And stay joyful, stay full of this new life Christ offers us, right? Because that's the truth, right? That is what will last and what will endure. The risen power and the light of Christ, not sheltering in place. I wanted to talk today very briefly about the gospel passage, which is appointed for Mass today. It comes from the very end of Mark's gospel, and it's one of my favorite bits in Mark's gospel because of what it teaches me as a Christian minister, but you as well, because it's Christ's appearance to the disciples for the very first time. Now, he appeared to Mary Magdalene, and he appeared to those two disciples on the way to Emmaus. Mark gives us a very sort of abbreviated account of that. But this passage describes Jesus' first encounter with the 12. And it's wonderful and informative and also hilarious in a sense, right? Because as it says in chapter 16, after Jesus appears to Mary Magdalene, she goes and tells the disciples, but it says in verse 11, when they heard that he was alive and had been seen by her, they would not believe it, right? And I'm just not buying it. Thank you very much, Mary Magdalene. And then when the two disciples, they go back and share their experience, it says, but they did not believe them, right? So the disciples are sort of hunkered down in fear, and they're not believing Mary Magdalene or the other two disciples. They're not buying it. They are just not having it, right? And then comes verse 14. Afterward, he appeared to the 11, not the 12 there, poor old Judas, what happened to him. Afterward, he went to the 11 themselves as they sat at table, and he upbraided them for their unbelief and hardness of heart. He rebuked them, you could translate, for their sclerocardia. It's the Greek word sclerosis of the heart, and their lack of faith. Because they had not believed those who had saw him after he had risen. Now, the reason I see this is kind of funny And the reason I love this passage is because let's just think about it. This is the first time Jesus sees the 11, his closest disciples, since his rising from the dead. First time he sees them. And you would think, it would be a glorious reunion. It might be a hug or two, or golly, I'm glad to see you. It's good to be back. You think it'd be something like that. But that's not what it is at all. It says he upbraided them. He rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart. So in Mark's gospel, Jesus' first resurrection appearance to the 12 features Jesus griping them out, right? He's just letting them have it, right? Here's Jesus risen from the dead, and he comes in, and there they are sitting down, and he just tears into them. I just find that funny, and it fits with the portrayal of Jesus in Mark's gospel, right? If you read Mark's gospel with any sort of sense, you discover that Jesus is not this sort of constantly syrupy nice guy at all. He is a rustic Jew from Galilee who will tell you what's up in a New York minute, and it's just a refreshingly real portrayal of Jesus, not sort of a wispy stained glass window version of Christ. And you see it here, right? He's risen from the dead, and he finds his team. He goes in there, just tells them what's up, and he gets on to them. How could you not believe you were with me all this time? You heard what I've said, you've seen what I've done, and why on earth were you so thick you couldn't believe Mary Magdalene? Goodness gracious, man. I would love to have heard the tone of his voice. I wonder what it was like, right? So it's just a wonderful image. But the reason it's wonderful, and the reason I have a smile on my face, is because of what Jesus says immediately afterwards in verse 15. So in verse 14, he gripes them out. He lets them have it. But in verse 15, he says this. It says, and he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to the whole of creation. He goes on a little bit, and he says, and he talks about baptism, right? And so that's what I love, especially as a priest, as a minister of the gospel, right? That's what I love to hear, is that he gripes them out for their lack of faith and their sclerocardia, their hardness of heart. But almost in the same breath, he gives them their mission. He commissions them, right? He knows they're fearful and thick sometimes, and they struggle with belief, and they're stubborn. He knows that about them, right? He's not blind to their cluelessness at times. But that doesn't mean he doesn't send them, He still sends them out. He still makes them his ministers, right? You guys, why didn't you believe? What's wrong with your heart? Go out into all the world and preach, right? You can understand why, as a minister, I like that passage, right? And why you, as a Christian, aware of your weakness, aware of your struggles in faith and your hardness of heart, why you should take comfort in the fact that Jesus doesn't fire the disciples, right? He doesn't fire them at all. He promotes them, and he does the same for us. He does the same for us, right? I mess things up about 3 or 4 times a day, right? There are times I am not worthy to do what I'm doing, to be where I am. Goodness gracious me. I fail St. Rita over and over and over again, right? But that doesn't mean the Lord has not called me to be here. That does not mean the Lord takes away his grace from me to continue as a servant of the gospel and a minister of the gospel. And that's true for you too, right? And so whenever you feel kind of useless, whenever you feel that you are kind of a stubborn, bad Christian, okay, yeah, you probably are. Let's be honest. But don't fool yourself into thinking that because of that, God cannot use you, that God somehow will cast you aside. That's what he will not do, right? That's not what he will do, right? God, to use the cliche, God does not call the equipped, he equips the called, right? And he calls you, he calls me. And so just trust that the Lord knew what he was doing, right? When he called you to be a priest, when he called you to be a deacon, when he called you to be a wife or a husband, when he called you to serve in this ministry in your parish, he knew what you're like, He knew your foibles, your weaknesses, your failures. He knew your past. None of that matters compared to the fact of the grace of the call of Christ in your life, right? Beautiful, beautiful truth right here at the end of Mark's gospel. And what's even more beautiful is that it's true for you, right? Just as much as it is for me. And that's why I'm happy to belong to this jumbled motley crew of sinners, which we call the Church of Jesus. Have a wonderful day. God bless. Bye.